I want to bitch on Bitcoin maximalists, but I don't want to bitch on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's a superior savings product than things like gold, because of course a country like Uganda can just find as much gold as everyone else has in the world. God knows how much is in those Indonesian volcanoes. You know what I mean? So Addicted put this in the room. It's stock to flow nightmare. Uganda finds more gold than exists in the world. Holy shit. That is like brute. This is 5,000 years of gold mining has just been doubled, and I haven't verified this, but it's like a thing that's going around at the moment. So I'm pretty sure this is legit. It makes a great case for silver to start off, because silver was already more rare than gold and somehow had a much lower market cap. But now hopefully it'll switch around. But it doesn't mean that this can't happen to silver, So I don't want to bitch on. I want to bitch on Bitcoin maximalists, but I don't want to bitch on Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's a superior savings product than things like gold, because of course a country like Uganda can just find as much gold as everyone else has in the world. God knows how much is in those Indonesian volcanoes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of archaic in a digital world to rely on something physical as your store value. And what is a store value? It's just a measuring stick. How much do you have? How much do I have? How do we keep track so we wake up and don't have to start from zero every day? It's just a measurement. None of this stuff has real value in terms of you can't eat dollar bills, your digits in your bank account. You can't eat those or start a fire with them. Somebody has to accept those for a physical good. So we don't go back to the barter era. So, thinking of, I'm going to have a rock that we have no idea how much of it's out there. An asteroid could hit the earth that has, way more, or, a country could ding, oh, wow, look at all this gold we found, all this silver. Not to mention it doesn't fit in a digital world. You have to rely on paper, centralized custodians. It just doesn't work. It worked for a long time, but now we're in a digital era. And yeah, you can hate on Bitcoin all you want, but I still hold Bitcoin. I have a lot of respect for it. I think it is the best store value right now in terms of on paper that makes sense. I don't know if it's going to be that in practice. Who knows? So everything's so heavily manipulated. Like to think, just because on paper it makes sense, it's going to fulfill its destiny in the real world. Like those are two different things. As a poker player, I realized that. But Bitcoin is in practice working, which is very, very good. It's showing that, hey, we can actually have distributed technology lift on its feet. And now we are creating our own game. That's literally what we're doing. We're creating our own game. The game was controlled by politicians, countries, corrupted individuals. And now we're like, well, no, we're going to, all of this is a point system plus perception. And so we're going to take our perception and make our own point system. And you can, we're just going to make sure that nobody can mess with the point. So it's fair. That's all we did. And it's taking off. And just to think of how amazing that is, it's like we invented something as a species that's not physical. It's in the mind, it's perception. And we all agreed on it. So it's like this new invention that we can only make as a collective. It's like evolving. It's really crazy when you think about like just the philosophy behind it. But yeah, gold is archaic. It doesn't make sense. And at least for a digital point system. It has its other use cases, of course. But
yeah, sure. I mean, like I always found this very interesting, because there was always like a 2% inflation to gold every year anyway via production. So it was never actually a capped asset anyway. But if they just found double the amount in was it Ethiopia? Uganda, and then there's this, there's all this talk about the likes of Musk flying out to this asteroid that's got it's an asteroid the size of Big Ben in London, and it's just pure gold, So there's definitely more. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's fixed. And the other thing, then you've also got, I think even more powerful are ecosystems like Hive that have their own monetary policy that's regulated by the community. I think that's way powerful as well, because you can predictably see what the community is doing. And I refer back to Taskmaster again. He's talking about this Hive bond system, and once that gets going with HBD really does become actual pristine collateral, way better than Bitcoin, because at least it's stable. Whereas Bitcoin moves all over the place, you can't possibly pristine collateralize that. And when you've got a bond system based on a stablecoin system that's actually outside the regulation system, you can have a transparent monetary system that's regulated by the community. I just think that's going to be so super powerful, and to the point where, as long as the community consistently demonstrates sound conservative monetary policy, conservative when it needs to be, and inflationary when it doesn't, when it's good for it, then I think people will see that as credible, and it will build credibility over time. It's like everything on Web3. You build credibility over time to the point where you have this social capital. Well, the monetary policy of the change is going to be the same thing, and you could get to a point where that's even more powerful than the likes of Bitcoin and gold as storage mechanisms, because it's more, it's a nice, predictable, well-managed regulatory policy that's outside the regulatory system, that's managed and regulated by the community, and they've done a great job of it over X number of years already. So why wouldn't that continue? I can see that type of thing coming true in the future as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you and Taskmaster in terms of something like an HBD can be a better pristine collateral, better just building an economy on top of. Really, it's not just, I wouldn't just say just HBD, the idea of having an asset, creating an algo version of it that you can pinpoint to anything that the community agrees to. So you have a valuable asset, digital real estate Hive, right? And then you can put that into an algo and say, hey, we're going to back this for whatever. It doesn't matter, dollar, gold, whatever we decide we want it to be. And then as a community, we can be flexible with the monetary rate. You can start to build foundations on top of that stable, agreed on, pristine collateral. I mean, on paper, that's literally 1,000 times better than just what, in essence, is Bitcoin, just a rock in the outer ethers. And it's capped right now, but it's very inflexible. It does have its strengths, right? People can say, oh, well, it's just a different system. And maybe people prefer a quote unquote dumb system where it's just like, hey, 21 million, don't mess with it. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. It's what we're going to deal with. And then, if you actually want to build an advanced civilization, you would need something more similar to HBD. And the only way I can really think of to do that in practice is to have the algo system where you back it by something that's not physical, that can't be taken, but it still retains value, something like Hive. And then you can pinpoint that to any value you want. That makes it escape regulatory clause. It makes it truly censorship resistant, and it makes it very flexible for economies to be built on. So I don't see another way to do it.
Yeah, we should have had some of that Hive-backed rubles, man.
Yeah, okay.
It's been doing well this year. What's your thoughts of the counterparty risk of gold miners, Dan? Do you know much about that stuff? I must admit I don't know that much about it. I do know that there is a conflict of interest between gold hoarders and gold miners.
They're kind of the mafioso in a way, where even if they found a bunch of gold, they're not going to mine it out. I think this was pointed out, but they're not going to mine it out instantly, or if they do, they're going to cut off the supply, so they're not actually cutting what they're mining out by the knees. They don't want the lower price of gold or just spending all this money because it's incredibly expensive. So I mean, yeah, they're more gatekeepers in terms of getting that new found things onto the market. And of course, those markets are heavily cornered by a few entities anyway. So I mean, in terms of counterparty risk, like, what do they mean in terms of going belly up, or more of acting as gatekeepers on the new supply? I don't know.
Well, I have to admit, I'm not an expert at this, but I have heard many times people talk about how the incentives of gold miners are not aligned with people who are hodling gold. So, for example, if first of all, if the price of gold's going up and you're a gold miner, why would you want to sell it? Secondly, if you're selling it to people who are then making a profit because the price is going up, your incentives aren't aligned with the people you're selling it to. And then, of course, if the price of gold production is going up as well, you don't want to sell that gold until the price is high enough to meet your profits. So what it means is that if the price of gold production goes up, then you won't want to sell your gold to the people who want to invest in it for hodling purposes, because you won't be able to cover your costs. So there's lots of dynamics at play there. I don't know the exact details of it. Maybe Hive Training can give us a document to take a look at for next week, or explain a bit more to us in the chat. Because I guess the similar principles apply to Bitcoin miners.
Yeah, the only difference is a Bitcoin miner can't come across a large portion of Bitcoin going over 21 million. It's like, oh, we found 21 more million Bitcoin, and we're going to be the sole dictators of who gets it. So yeah. Bitcoin mining is still far superior to gold mining and as being decentralized.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next item here. I think healthy competition is always good, so we'll talk a bit about DTube here. Avalon hard fork 6 DTube becomes a decentralized autonomous